Welcome to SIM-PAC Live. I'm your host, Jeff Matthews. Today we're at Janus Electric on the Central Coast in New South Wales. They're just moving into a brand new factory. They're moving in as we're coming to film. And this is an exciting moment for Australia. It is Australia's first EV truck factory.
Thanks, Jeff, for coming. I tell you what, you're in Australia's first and only EV manufacturing plant for Class 8 trucks.
Awesome.
So you're in the main production floor here, so have a look. You can see trucks in production, various stages. We've got a diesel down the end there waiting for the motor to come out. We've got a Mack there waiting for its JCM. We've got our 610 that's getting the new flexible JCM into it. Great customer out of Goulburn, Andy DeVell from DeVell's Bulk Haulage and Earth Moving. It's got its conversion modules over there ready to go in. That'll go in tomorrow.
And tell me, so a truck like this, when it comes in to get converted, what's the time frame if you've done that sort of model before?
Well, when we're not moving factory, it's about 3 weeks from truck arrival to driving out the gate. So, but we're aiming to get that down to 2 weeks, and with the new flexible JCM, we should get it down under 10 days.
Yeah.
From diesel to full conversion.
Yeah, and how many trucks do you expect to have on this floor? I know you're just moving in from a smaller space, but what do you expect when this plant's rolling?
Yeah, so this will be 2 rows of 5 trucks, so 5 stations.
Yeah.
So it'll be a diesel decommissioning station,
yeah.
Then JSR fitment, so battery receptacle, JCM fitment,
yeah.
Roll forward into electrical fitment,
yeah.
And then the next station is commissioning and drive out.
Awesome.
So we've got Cube's third truck, you can see there, the big Volvo at the end.
Yeah.
It's driving out, it's finished.
And you're in the middle, or almost at the final stages of capital raising and expansion?
Yes, yeah, we are. So prospectus went live, I think it was Wednesday last week.
Yeah.
Officer closing on the 4th of April. And yeah, we're right in the middle of the capital raise with institutional and private investors, high net worths. The public's involved. It's fantastic to see the support that we're getting across the book, which is great.
Yes, and when this, 6 months' time I come back here, you've got 10 trucks in here on the way through. How many staff have you got on the floor? Yeah,
there'll be about 3 people per station. So in here there'll be about 30 people in technicians.
Yes.
And then when you come down into the next part of the factory, you'll see the JCM fit-up bay.
Yeah. And
the JSR fit-out bay. So
we'll have a walk through there.
Yeah.
And those 30 people, you've got how many now? I mean, this is...
We're 26 people now. We'll be employing another 20 people over the next 3 months.
Good.
In both engineering and in manufacturing.
Yeah.
I should say assembly.
Yeah.
So you've got the JCM fit-up point here. So this is where the JCMs are going together.
Now, tell me what the acronym for the people JCM means.
Janus Conversion Module.
Right.
So your Janus Conversion Module essentially is this. It's electric motor,
yep,
gearbox, and then your water pump, air compressor, power steering, and air conditioner top plate. So this basically just drops straight into the truck.
That drops straight into the truck, and that replaces the diesel unit that's in there now.
Yep.
And it's all rigged to go. And then the fuel tanks are taken out and replaced with your battery units.
Yeah, which we call a JSR, so Janus side receptacle.
Right.
So it's where the batteries slip into.
Yeah. Yeah. And just roughly, I mean, there's obviously, this is a sophisticated bit of kit. And it's taking how many years to develop?
Look, we've perfected it over. We've been going for 5 years now.
5.
Yep. So the first 2 years were really R&D and learning and understanding what we needed to do, and the third year is where we've really got into production, and we're starting to turn it into a really easy to install kit. That even so much so that we've got a dealer in Adelaide.
Yeah.
That is doing the installation now of their first dealer conversion in Adelaide.
Yeah. And for people, what's performance characteristics? I suppose you're talking torque here. Is that what you measure, or kilowatt output?
It's a 540 kilowatt motor, so 720 horsepower in the old scale.
Yeah.
2,500 newton meters of torque.
Yeah.
So it's got more torque than a diesel off the mark.
Yeah.
And it's a very flat torque curve, so you've got really good instantaneous power. I mean, if you've driven an electric car, just think of an electric car on steroids.
Yeah, and just the 2,500, just because a diesel has a torque curve, it builds up and then it drops off. What's a peak diesel curve?
Oh, they're about 1700 RPM, and that's about 2250 foot-pound of torque.
Right. So it's more, and it's all the way through.
Yeah, yeah.
And does it need new driving instructions for have that much torque all the way through?
Look, we cater for a little bit of that instantaneous delivery of torque through the vehicle coding and software coding, so we ramp it in nice and steadily.
Yeah.
But the overall feedback from the drivers that are operating these trucks, they love them. They just go, they're just something, they feel fresh when they get out of them. They're not tired, they're not fatigued. You talk to the Cement Australia guys in Sydney, just in Sydney traffic, no gear changing, pleasant to drive, quiet. They don't feel like they've done a hard day in a diesel truck, and they're not changing gears as well too.
I'm finding that with electrification across everywhere. I talked to some guys who they electrified high pressure window washers for these big tall buildings.
Yep.
And they were using these small petrol generators next to them all day long, and they went to a battery electric system and it changed their lives.
Yeah. It is. We had the Everything Electric show in Sydney last week.
Yeah.
And they brought their wives in to have a look at their trucks and have a look at a battery swap. And even the feedback from the wives was they don't come home, their clothes don't smell of diesel. They don't smell of that they've been around a diesel truck all day. So
now, you brushed on battery swap.
Yep.
This is one of the things I love so much about Janus Electric.
Yeah.
And it's the fact that a few years ago, people saying, "Oh, you cannot charge a battery, you cannot do this, and you're refueling diesel, you'll never match it." And then suddenly, not only you match it, you've exceeded it, because it takes 15 minutes to fill a diesel truck.
Roughly about 15 minutes.
And you're swapping the batteries in what?
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen someone online teasing you that you could do it in one. I may have been one of your crew, but do you think you'll get it down to one?
I believe, we will get it down to a sub a minute. With the robotics and what we're looking at doing with automated charging and automated swapping, we'll get it less than a minute.
It's unbelievable game changing.
It is.
When, people are going to run out of excuses.
Correct. Oh, look, we're in a transition, Jeff.
Yeah.
I'm sure, like my family's been in transport for nearly 5 generations now. So from the early 1900s, my great-grandfather was a timber fella.
Yeah.
And he used to have a bullock team.
Yeah.
So they were carting timber out of the forest with bullock teams.
Yeah.
Then they went to steam tractors.
Yes.
Then they went to diesel trucks.
Yes.
Now I'm sure there would have been people in those days that would have said, "Well, where are you going to get your water from for the steam tractor?"
Yes.
Then the bullock team operator would have been saying, "Well, where are you going to get the diesel from for your diesel truck?"
Yeah.
Now we've got the same thing. Like we've transitioned. We're now transitioning into that next power source. And at the end of the day, there's still going to be a need for diesel in some applications.
Yeah.
But in our capital cities, in our environmental areas, in high traffic areas, why don't we electrify? Like, what people talk about climate change and say, "Oh, you're just a greenie and you're doing this for climate change." Jury's out for me on climate change. I'm not going to say one or the other because there's too many competing stories. But the simple practice is, if you don't think it's right, go and park your car in your garage, leave it running, and sit it and tell me how good you feel after half an hour of sitting in it. What we do, we're doing exactly the same thing. We're just putting it into a bigger atmosphere.
Yeah.
So we've got trucks operating around school zones. We've got trucks operating in cities. We've got, high concentrated through residential areas where there's main thoroughfares where this emissions is going out. It's about just public health and doing the right thing. Just because we can doesn't mean we should.
Yeah.
We've got to come back to it and look at it from a very simplistic point of view.
And the big driver will be economics. And,
Correct.
Look, tell me, I know we could talk for hours, but let's just tell me one story because I loved it. It was about the Western Australia, and there's these trucks. I think they're taking lithium out of a lithium mine.
Yeah.
And they're going uphill empty.
Correct.
And they're coming downhill full.
Yep.
And with the regenerative braking, tell us the story.
So it's really interesting. They use less energy to come back from the mine loaded than they do to get to the mine empty.
Yeah.
And it's because of the amount of regenerative energy that the truck is putting into it as it comes down the hill.
Yeah.
Because it's coming down at 115 tonnes and going up at 35 tonnes. So, but it's just phenomenal, the power of regen braking. And the really great thing about it is the driver says to me, "Well, it's a gear better off coming down the hill." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Oh, well, the diesel Volvo, we're on the brakes. The engine brake won't hold the truck in the diesel motor down the hill. Whereas in the electric truck, it holds the truck all the way down the hill. We don't have to touch the brakes."
Yeah.
So you think about maintenance savings and those sorts of things for the fleet operator. This is an economic decision for the fleet operator.
Yeah.
It's not this is not about, the beneficial byproduct of this is the environment.
Yeah.
That's what this is about.
Right.
So
let's take me through the rest of it. I imagine your crew's pretty excited about moving into a bigger premises.
it was fantastic to see the look, because there's a few of them that have seen it,
Yeah.
but not everyone yet, because we were still finalising leases and so on and making sure, this is the right decision.
Right.
And we brought them over here last week just for a first inspection, and they've sort of walked in going, wow. It's like it's like Dorothy had left Kansas. So,
Yes.
And if you'd seen where we've started from, this is the first EV truck manufacturing plant in Australia.
Yeah.
Here on the Central Coast with
Yeah.
Australian engineered technology,
Yeah.
Australian assembled, doing something for our country in bringing manufacturing jobs back to this country.
Yes.
So what you can see in here is the battery section. It's
Yep.
just in, you're here literally
As you're moving in.
day one as we're moving in.
Yeah.
So the guys are doing an amazing job getting everything back together. But
Yeah.
we've got charge station manufacturing over on the other side of the shed there, which
Yeah.
is the green container.
Yeah.
Going down to Clyde. Mitch is getting all these battery tables laid out and just getting the configuration right.
Yeah.
But we will start battery production here on Monday next week.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
also you come into our cabinetry area.
Yeah.
And looming and cabinets are all moving into their own section. So look at that, they're already locked
Security.
up. They've locked me out, but we can walk around.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is the only factory I think that's ever moved with completely electric vehicles. Electric forklifts,
Yeah.
electric truck moving the whole thing.
Yes.
All on solar energy in the batteries.
And how much of solar you've got on the roof? Or are you going to install more?
We've got to put solar on the roof. We'll put about 350 kilowatts of solar on
Yeah.
the roof.
Yeah.
And we'll put it into the charge station directly around the other side. So we've got a charge station just
Yeah.
on the outside there, which is now a 24/7 charge station for Fountaindale or for the Central Coast region.
Okay, so I want to take a little second here about this charge station, because this is the other side of your business plan that I absolutely love, is that when these batteries are stationary, i.e. when they're not in a truck, they can be earning money.
Correct.
Because you can charge them off zero or even negative price power off the grid during the middle of the day.
Correct.
And you can give grid services back when we need it, like 6 o'clock, everyone comes and power's going up.
Yep.
So the batteries can earn money when they're stationary.
Correct.
Tell me a diesel truck can earn money when it's stationary.
It can't.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. If electricity, we've got to think of it differently. The beauty of batteries and having it where we can use it in a vehicle, we can invert it back to the grid. It just completes a total ecosystem where we can be generating power in local areas for the local area, and if it's not being used in the local area as a distributed back to the grid in the peak time, it goes into a truck.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So it's about how do we get the best efficiency and utilisation out of battery assets?
Yeah.
How do we get it out of our vehicles? How do we get it out of our charging infrastructure and our grid?
And your batteries, your cell technology, you're cell agnostic, because it's the actual compartment that goes under the truck.
Correct.
And connects up in the connections.
Yep.
And they're currently what, about a megawatt of battery?
620 kilowatt hours.
And 620. And that is about to double, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah. It's about 12 months away, but so stage 1 will be going to 650.
Yeah.
Stage 2 is a megawatt, and stage 3 is 1.4.
Okay. That's amazing in a time frame anyway, to just think that you're going to double like nothing else is doing that on the planet at the moment.
Well, that's the technology. That's what's happening with the technology. It is changing so rapidly.
Yeah.
So our system is created to allow us to be cell agnostic.
Yeah.
You think about a diesel truck. It's a rectangular tank.
Yes.
There's Vortex diesel, there's BP Ultimate, there's all different types of diesel. Still goes in the same tank.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is how do we bring in the next gen?
Well, it's future proofed as well.
Correct.
And because these cells are developing so fast, and if it can fit it, and you're basically fitting twice as many kilowatt hours into the same physical space.
Correct.
And so you'll take whatever cell comes along that's going to give you the best value for kilowatt hours.
It meets the safety requirements, meets our economic requirements, because at the end of the day, this has got to be an economic decision for the fleets.
Yes.
If it's not an economic decision, it won't get picked up, and you've got to look at it in two different ways. Subsidies are great, and we appreciate the government if they're going to help the industry transition.
Yes.
But at some point, you can't have an industry that's completely based on subsidies like fossil fuel.
No.
And some of our infrastructure, they're constantly looking for the subsidy from the government, which means that are they actually economically viable for us?
Yes, and look, I think sometimes people look to the subsidies as a signal. It's the strong signals from government that people actually want.
Correct.
You know, to make investment decisions, and that the rug's not going to be pulled from under them.
Correct. Or tax what you don't want.
Yeah.
Subsidise what you do want, and incentivise what you do want. So,
yes, completely.
You know, just change. It's just a change in the way we think around things, and you know, there's a great opportunity here for Australia to actually have its own energy sovereignty. There's 55 million petajoules of solar energy hits this continent every year.
Yeah.
We only export 23,500 petajoules. If you look at the uranium, the coal, and the gas Australia exports out of this country,
Yeah.
and think about what we're given for free from the sun every day.
Yeah.
There is a massive opportunity here for Australia to actually have energy sovereignty.
Yes. Yes. Now, coming back to your charge station, so if you've
Do you want to see it?
What?
Do you want to see one?
Yeah.
Righto. Well, let's go out through.
Okay.
Go out this way. We'll come out.
Well,
this
I
way.
just wanted to know, these charge stations on average, I mean, I know that it'll depend on how many trucks using routes and what sort of routes, but how many batteries would be in them at any one time?
Look, there can be anywhere between two to four batteries in them at any one time.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is a two bay.
Yeah.
So this has two sets of batteries in it. So this is about 1.2 megawatt hours
Yes.
of BESS. It's a 180 kilowatt charger.
Yeah.
So essentially, the battery just slides in. It's got a proximity switch.
Yeah.
And it knows that the battery's in. So you can see this battery's in charge at the moment.
Yeah.
Orange lights on there,
Right.
and the charge cabinet's directly in there.
And eventually, when your cell technology steps up, could be 4 megawatts of.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that for a local region like this, that could be lights on sort of saving stuff.
Oh, huge, massive.
That could be at certain times. That could be, you know, you keep the lights on locally.
This could run it's enough to supply the subdivision here.
Yeah.
So you think about the retail and industry that's in this area.
Yeah.
This is enough to supply the suburb.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And you know, as I said, you know, these things can earn money and save money while they're not being used.
Correct.
Because you can top them up.
Well, we're charging right now. So renewables are in production right now.
Yes.
We're charging right now.
Yes.
And that's the difference with the battery swap, is you can actually stage when you're charging the battery. Our software system is looking at everything in real time.
Yeah.
So we understand what trucks are using energy, when they need energy, where they need energy.
Yeah.
And then it looks at what battery infrastructure is available and what charge stations are available, and goes, okay, well, that's the best battery for you to swap.
Yeah.
We're then able to see it and go, well, no, we don't need a battery between 4 p.m. till 8 p.m. tonight. We can invert some energy back out.
And are you looking for clusters of clients so you can cluster them?
Yeah. Look, this is about sharing infrastructure.
Yeah.
The more infrastructure we can share, the easier we are to make this transition happen for everybody. And that's, it's not cheap infrastructure, but we've got to, if you utilise it, it is.
Yeah.
So utilise it 24 hours a day. It's like our grid. You know, the Australian grid, they're saying we need to spend billions of dollars on transmission. No, we've just got to spread the usage out over a 24-hour period rather than into a 6-hour period.
Yes, everyone needs to do the bit, and that's from putting your swimming pool pump at home on, during the day when you're not there, by buying a $12 timer down at Bunnings.
Correct.
You know, so
and looking at what you turn on when you come home. Yeah. Those sorts of things, like
not turn on.
Or not turn on. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then you start to think about batteries and what eventually can end up in our homes, and essentially you get to a point where you can have an off-grid community where you become self-sufficient from rooftop solar.
And so you've got clients now. Forgive me if I got this wrong, but I know there's Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales.
Correct.
Queensland, I think, is getting one.
Very close to it. Very close.
And so that's only leaving Tasmania and Northern Territories,
Correct.
really.
And Tasmania we can do with 2 charge stations, which is the beauty of Tasmania, because of the main front.
And they've got big hydro too.
Yeah, and it's all it is all hydroelectricity down there.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Great opportunities.
Look, Lex, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I've taken your time on a busy afternoon when you're moving in. good luck. Good luck with your capital raising. We're going to come back and see you in a few months' time, and we want to see this bay full of these trucks.
I'd love to be able to show you that, Jeff, and we're very excited about what the future holds for us, and what it holds for Australia as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jeff.